Welcome ladies and gents, Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter. Of course, you can subscribe to the channel, hit that like button too, it helps the channel grow. Let's talk boxing. I want to talk about Florian Marku, a guy who I'm big on. You know, I enjoy Florian, I enjoy his personality, I enjoy his fighting style. We'll talk about his journey and things like that. But first I want to talk about Savannah Marshall and Claressa Shields. Claressa Shields was present at her devastating knockout last night of Femke Hermans. Claressa Shields is of course high on confidence. The self-proclaimed greatest woman of all time who believes that she could beat Gennady Golovkin, Keith Thurman and Sean Porter according to things she said in the past because skills pay the bills and she feels like she's the more skilled than those guys. She's a more skilled fighter. So clearly she's very high on confidence. But would seeing Savannah Marshall last night have dented her confidence slightly? Would it have made her a little bit more concerned having seen that terrible knockout? Or would she have seen certain gaps, certain holes in Savannah's game that will make her think, you know what, I can capitalize on this? Well, let's talk about it. First and foremost, let's talk a little bit about the things that Savannah did which weren't so great. Then I want to talk to you about the things that she did that were brilliant. And then I want to talk about the method in which Savannah Marshall delivers her power, because that's quite key here. It plays a role into what we're talking about regarding Claressa Shields and what she may seek to capitalize on and where a potential danger will lie for her. So first and foremost, what you saw against Femke was Savannah looking to come forward. She did her typical thing of looking like Huey Fury. She's got that languid style, flicking out the jab, great upper body movement, rolls with the shots. You can certainly tell she's a protege of Peter Fury, and she certainly carries power. We know that. However, when she was seeking to chase down the elusive opponent that was Femke, she at times was struggling to get certain technical things spot on. Maybe she was just too keen to try and impress. You know, Claressa Shields was ringside. She was screaming wow every 2 minutes. Every time Femke would do something good or Claressa Shields would miss wildly, you'd hear Savannah Marshall say wow, wow. It's almost like Savannah wanted her to lose, you know, rather than her thinking, let her win so I can have this big moment. It's almost like she dislikes Savannah so much. She was thinking, you know what, I wouldn't mind if she loses this fight. I don't think Savannah Marshall scares her in the same way that I don't think Claressa Shields scares her. But although you can be a confident fighter, you know that each fight provides a certain amount of risk comparative to the reward. And Claressa Shields will know that she's got a potential real fight here on her hands. But when Savannah was chasing Femke, at points she was overreaching. And one of the reasons is against that unstable opponent, when Savannah couldn't quite find a consistent home for that jab to work off of that, she started to overreach a little bit with that backhand. And she started to lean her way over the front foot. And one of the problems she's got, although she's very elusive and she rolls with shots well, she's a very tall girl. And as she tries to pull back out, she's a little bit slow in doing so. And so if Savannah Marshall is to ever fall short against an opponent with a shot, she throws a shot, it falls short. When she tries to pull back out, it's not that fast. There's not, you know, there is a moment where you could follow her back in and have success against her. So Claressa Shields, in my humble opinion, will be looking to fight a Raiden style because she's got the faster feet, I would assume, and certainly the faster hands. So what Claressa Shields would think of doing is, listen, if I can stay on the outside, change direction like Femke was doing, getting her to reset, if I can then jump in when she's not expecting it or after she's thrown a shot and fallen short, I could follow her all the way in and start to land flurries of shots before getting back out. This is an area where she'll look to capitalize on. Even if I stay all the way in, because there's quite a loop on Savannah's shots, which we'll get to afterwards, I could stay almost in the eye of the storm and have exchanges with Savannah and perhaps find more success against this big body. I can target that big, tall body and I can stay quite small in the pocket and protect myself and I can have some success here. She would have liked seeing those elements. When Savannah obviously did land the knockout, Claressa Shields looked a little bit concerned because it was a reminder that, listen, you have to be perfect against Savannah Marshall. One error and she can take you out. But let's talk a little bit about the way in which she delivers her power. I'm going to use a couple of analogies here. When you're talking about a guy who's got short power, someone like Povetkin, for instance, you don't have to have a big wind-up on the shot. It's almost like a rocket launch. You're already in your position, you know, he'll be already quite low, crouched, and it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. And from that launch, he doesn't need to pull back, just like a rocket doesn't move into the ground before it goes up in the air. It's just there and it fires off. He'll be in a position, he's crouched, all of a sudden, bang, the upper arc comes in. He shoots from there. There's no swing, a big swinging arch or anything like that. In terms of weapons, it's almost like akin to having knuckle dusters on. You don't need to throw a big shot. You can just place the shot. As long as you land on the skull, you're going to crack the skull. That's what a guy with short power's got. With Savannah Marshall, a lot of her power's delivered based on momentum. She'll swing into shots. And when it's based on momentum, it's a little bit different. In terms of a weapon, rather than it being like a knuckle dusters, it's almost like what are those medieval weapons called? Is it like a ball and chain? Where you got that ball where the spike's coming out, it's on a chain, and you'd see these knights or whatever swing it around and then hit someone and just take their heads off and stuff. Little bit graphic, but you know what I'm talking about. That particular weapon, I need to swing to generate that momentum. If I then miss with it, I can't just... it's gone past your face by an inch and then it's quickly going to change direction and come back at you. The swing has to be completed and a new swing has to begin. Or even if it's coming back from the opposite direction, the swing comes past you, it stops, and then it's swung back at you. So there's a rotation that comes with the momentum. If you look at Savannah Marshall's knockout last night, she threw a big right hand and fell down into it, which was fine because she's coming off of her centre line, so she's quite safe in that position. But then she's trying to come up with a left hook. As she comes up with a left hook, they seek to exchange hooks. Savannah's arm was actually quite tight, really good from her in that moment. Herman's wasn't quite as tight. Savannah got there first, she landed, she knocked her out. But the point is, by coming down, that miss actually added a load up for that following hook. And if you look at the hooks generally of Savannah Marshall, she does have quite an arc on them. They're wide. She's generating a big, wide looping hook. This is because she does have a long reach, long arms. And for a woman who's got long arms, it's perhaps more difficult to create that short power. She's not as compact, so it requires more distance to create that full rotation and delivery of that shot. That is going to provide a problem potentially for Savannah, because Savannah wants a target to be stationary. When the knockout did come, Hermans, who was moving very well and frustrating Savannah for much of the night, was more stationary. The shot came in, it missed, she held her feet and she sought to load up on her own hook. That's the stationary thing she wants, right? If you are stationary against Savannah though, and you start to exchange, it only takes one shot in the women's game. She's a big, big puncher. What Claressa Shields therefore will seek to do, like I said, is a raiding style. But Savannah's very, very languid, and she's got great agility in the hips. So even if you then come inside on her and try to throw with her, what she's very good at is rolling with a shot to create space. Because by falling to the side, even if you're right up on her chest, just by falling to the side, when you're right up against her, she's now created leverage to come back with a shot. But it still requires that bigger loop to get those shots off. She still needs to come down and then travel back up, whereas you might be in a position to throw shorter shots. So it's an interesting clash of styles. One thing I will say is that Claressa Shields is going to have to be absolutely perfect for the majority of the fight, because she cannot be eating that sort of power. I'm not going to give a prediction just yet. I'll give a full breakdown closer it comes to the fight. I can envisage ways in which they both win the fight. But if I was in Team Shields last night, would have made me take a little bit of confidence rather than be more worried. There were areas there where I thought, okay, I'm going to be able to exploit this. Nonetheless, you've got that big red siren, that alarm bell going off, that light flashing on and off, telling you, listen, one error, that could be you on the floor, right? So Savannah's very dangerous, very talented. We'll see how that fight goes when it finally comes around. Now let's talk a little bit about Florian Marku. You know, I'm a fan of Florian Marku's. I think he's brilliant in terms of the entertainment he provides. Very, very intense as a personality. I've not met him, but I know a couple of people that have met him, and they always say, and they know him, not just met him, they know him, and they've said, listen, he's a really nice guy. It's just his personality to be like that with opposing fighters. And I've always said I've got no problem with fighters that are aggressive to other fighters, as long as they don't cross certain lines, and Marku has never done that, and as long as they're cool with the fans. And he is cool with the fans. I don't buy into this thing about you have to be a nice guy to everyone, including your opponents. This is the fight game. You're going to punch someone in the face, right? They're trying to knock you out. You're trying to knock them out. You have to control your emotions in a way that works best for you. Some people will remain calm, will be respectful, will be playful, will be cocky, will be arrogant. Other guys will be aggressive with other fighters. That's just how it is. He gets into that warlike mentality. You could tell he's a warrior. He's got that in him. And I put out a tweet to say, He is so intense with his personality. He seems mentally strong. Fun style to watch too. He's great entertainment. Jenkins in the twilight of his career, but he can be fun to watch too, so this fight should be fun. I expect Marku to get it done though, despite the gap in experience. Well, Jenkins took the first round. It was a good start by him, very active with the jab, consistently moving to his own left, which was getting Marku to reset. And Jenkins was jabbing off of that reset. So the moment Marku would reset, bang, he'd catch him with a jab. And he was finding it hard, Marku, to find a rhythm. The second round came and Marku increased his tempo a little bit, but I still scored it to Jenkins. He was outworking Marku with the jab, basically. He was just a lot more active. And Marku was a little bit static with his head on the line. He wasn't getting it off the line. And when he was occasionally slipping, he wouldn't necessarily be throwing shots. Now, when he was letting his hands go, he was finding success. But one of the things that I've mentioned here on this channel many times is that when kickboxers transition into boxing, there's one key element, one big thing that they often manage to find difficult to adjust to. And one of those things is slipping side to side. And one of the reasons for that is that in boxing, slipping can work brilliantly. You slip on the outside of the lead shoulder, you're pretty safe in a position, and now you're in an area where you can attack. In kickboxing, you're not necessarily safe. You slip on the side of that shoulder, you could get a side kick that you're moving directly into. So they're brilliant at controlling distance and being in and out, kickboxers, but when it comes to side lateral head movement, it's not something that works as well in kickboxing as it does in boxing. You can be exposed to making that error. And so when they move over to boxing, they haven't developed that skill to such an extent. Well, you could see there was an element of that. He looked a little bit stiff. The third round, he started to up the tempo and he started to let go of his hands more in terms of punching with Jenkins. And Jenkins was going hell for leather from the very first round. And it was quite clear that Jenkins wouldn't be able to maintain this tempo. But at the same time, he was landing some eye-catching shots. I scored the third round to Marku. I just felt he was landing a lot more shots now. Now he's starting to get on top. But in terms of the big eye-catching shots, there were 2 or 3 that came from Jenkins. And there were slight pauses in Marku. He wasn't rocked or anything like that, but there were pauses when he was eating those shots. So you could tell that Jenkins had the power to affect Marku. And you know that Marku's got the power to affect Jenkins. So you're sitting there and you're thinking, this is not going to go the distance. I've said someone's getting knocked out in this. Lock it. This is not going the distance. I knew the end was near, even though we were so early in the fight. Near, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean the next round. It might have been in a few rounds, but it wasn't going the distance. Well, it was in the next round of stoppage. It was fantastic from Marku to start punching with Jenkins. That adjustment was the right adjustment that he made. And he landed a beautiful shot to hurt him. I actually felt the stoppage was a little bit premature because although the legs of Jenkins looked like they were gone, when Marku was then opening up with the flurries of shots, he started to miss a lot of them, most of them. He was missing them. And Jenkins looked lucid. And he fell back onto the ropes, and as he came forward, he did a right hand. But apart from that right hand, there was a moment where he was bent down in front of Marku, and Marku was trying to throw these short shots, and he was missing them all. So you're sitting there thinking, can he recover his legs here? Can he get a second wind? You know, he hasn't been hurt to the point whereby he can't stand on his feet. He's wobbled, but he's not eating big unanswered shots here. But nonetheless, the stoppage did come. It wasn't the worst stoppage in the world. It was just a little bit premature for me personally. But to be fair, the writing seemed on the wall at that point. You know, Marku had landed a significant shot that seriously affected Jenkins. But the point is this. He's with Grant Smith, one of the best trainers in the country now, who's also got Sonny Edwards and Dalton Smith, his own son, who's one of the best prospects in the country. And I expect him to grow and improve quite a bit as a fighter. But this sort of element of stiffness early in fights, that bit where he struggles to slip side to side, against a big puncher, is he going to be able to get away with that? We have seen him drop before. We've seen him dropped against Charlton. He had that one fight which it was a draw that, you know, he didn't do particularly well in that fight. He's adjusted since then, Marku. But he's had a couple of worrying moments, is my point. Is he going to be able to rely on that athleticism and that strong mental will to be able to come through other tests in future against guys who are going to be able to get him to constantly reset, who are going to be able to land hooks on him because he's not slipping in the same way to be able to punish them, you know, the same level to be able to punish them. So as he starts to walk through the gaps, through the levels, he could start to have more problems. Now, I did ask last night my followers who they would like to see him fight next. And Chris Congo got 39.8% of the vote. It's after 128 votes. Conor Benn got 27.3%, Amir Khan 28.1%, Kell Brook got 4.7%. I could only put 4 options up there. Who would you like to see him fight next? The Congo fight seems to make most sense. The beef there has been building up. He, of course, has been calling them all out, including Conor Benn and Kell Brook. With Marku, I love his presence, I love his attitude, I love the fact that he's got this real fire inside him. You can tell, great self-belief, and he's got that fire, it's genuine. But I do believe if he's going to start fighting guys like Kell Brook, who have got the monster jab that he's got and the offensive juggernaut that he is, even Conor Benn, he's going to have to be a little bit more elusive. You can't be eating the shots that Conor Benn delivers or that Kell Brook delivers if you don't improve that upper body movement. And like I said, Sonny Edwards, Dalton Smith, he's going to be in there with guys that can move, and he's with a great trainer. I've got no doubt he's going to start to work on these things and improve on these things. But it is an area that he is going to have to work on. Let me know what you think about the Albanian king. He's got a massive backing behind him with Albanian fans. He's a star over there. You know, you've got professional footballers like Granit Xhaka, who plays for Switzerland but is of Albanian origin. Xhaka's brother actually plays for Albania, so he's close to his Albanian roots, is Granit, and he's been to fights of his before because he is a big character and a big name. So he's got a big support behind him, and he is entertaining. So I can imagine them continuing to build this guy up. Great signing for Boxer. Let me know what you think about that and about Savannah Marshall. Thanks for watching, everyone. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.